So after just over a year and 59 matches overseen, Des Buckingham has been sacked by his boyhood club, Oxford United. Let's chat about it. So yes, it's the news I was not expecting on Sunday afternoon. Des Buckingham, Cowley boy, has been sacked by his beloved Oxford United after a tough start to the Championship, no doubt about that. As you'll probably guess from the majority opinion on Oxford United Twitter and other social medias, this is not a decision I agree with. I think the way it has been dealt with is disgusting. Like I said, no one said this championship was going to be easy. We were kind of laughing and joking at the start of the campaign when we were 2-0 up against Norwich, singing, we're on the way to the Premier League. But we always knew that it was going to be really tough. Now, obviously, the recent form has not been ideal or good. We've talked about it time and time again on this channel. But what I think a lot of Oxford fans have been getting across is there's not just any manager. This is Des Buckingham. This is a lad that, has been part of the, was part of the furniture of this football club for a long time. Started his coaching career under the wing of Mickey Lewis, one of the most important people in the recent history of this football club. Was promoted into senior coaching by Chris Wilder, who, before Des, was arguably our most beloved manager of the modern era. Des is very important to this football club. Family of Oxford fans, and the fact that it was Des Buckingham, local boy come good, that took us over when Liam Manning snaked off to Bristol City, and the fact he took us from, yes, he took over when we were second. That was a false place. We were all aware of that. The underlying numbers showed that we were not going to be able to continue that for the rest of the campaign. Obviously, it was very tough from when Des took over to, up until obviously that horrific 5-0 battering at the hands of Bolton. But he decided, I'm going to do it my way now. He played the double 10-6 system, or the reverse mullet as it was coined, barring a dodgy pen leading to a loss against Lincoln, and I'm pretty sure it was a flawless run against that Des Buckingham had against League One opposition. Obviously took us into the playoffs. That really controlled 1-0 win against Peterborough, and then the second leg very professionally managed it. A couple of the dark arts were brought out, but we got the job done, got to Wembley, and although we didn't feel it in the stands, one of the most comfortable playoff finals for a while for one of the sides. Obviously, I think a lot of this stems from the fact that the board took an extra month and a half, 2 months longer than they should have to sack Carl Robinson. So first sign of trouble, they've pressed the button and they've got rid of Des. I had a feeling there might be some kind of trouble surrounding Des and the managerial situation, because I've been told on Saturday evening after the game that the entire senior executive staff was at the game against Sheffield Wednesday, and now in hindsight we can see they probably had already made up their mind that if he lost that game as he did, he would get the sack. I then have the question of, well, if he'd won that game and then gone and lost to Leeds, would you have sacked him after a loss against Leeds? It's I think it's fair to say that there are questions that need to be asked of this ownership model, of the ownership structure, I should say. It took him a long time to build up some kind of decent communication with the fan base, and right now that's all disappeared. And it really didn't help with this. The initial statement that Des had been sacked. As you can see, it's 7 lines long, only just 7 lines long. Bear in mind, so this is a shorter statement that they gave when Liam Manning was sacked. Definitely a shorter one than when Carl Robinson was sacked. Just a simple Oxnard confirmed that Dez Buckingham has left his role as men's first team head coach. They mentioned, appointed in November of last year and led the club to promotion to the Championship at the end of 23-24. I'd like to place on record its thanks to Des for everything he has done during his time with us and wish him well in the future. The appointment of a new manager will be confirmed in due course. That's not good enough. And we've made our voices clear. This is not good enough because, like I said, you're not just dealing with any other manager. You're dealing with one of us. Dealing with an Oxford boy. Obviously, they realised they'd screwed up because Grant Ferguson yesterday released a more in-depth statement going into acknowledging the fact that Des has got a very, very extensive history with not just this football club but this city. It goes into a couple of bits and pieces. This bit here, we have a fantastic experienced coaching team in place. But as we did with Des, the head coach will be given the opportunity to add to their backroom staff. In due course. Interesting line, given the fact that it was infamous that Des wasn't able to get the assistant manager he wanted. He wasn't able to get the analyst he wanted, and the one he did, we had to wait a good 6 months for them to finish up their contract with Arsenal Women. So it was left to an academy analyst, Isaac Alder, who'd done a brilliant job, don't get me wrong, but he had to step up while we were unable to get an analyst in. Obviously the assistant manager thing, that would literally no assistant manager was brought in. We had to promote Chrissy Hackett from the academy. The whole backroom staff dealings of Dez's manager was an absolute farce in terms of getting the right people in to help Dez. So obviously, as happens when a manager is sacked, the bookies start putting names out there and trying to get people to make bets on them. So obviously some of the kind of more notable names, and also bear in mind that literally a day after Des had been sacked, Russell Martin got sacked from Southampton. He was one of the ones that came up, so was Gary O'Neill, so was Steve Cooper. 3 massively unrealistic targets. These are lads that had just finished in the Premier League. They are highly, highly unlikely to want to come to a side in the bottom half of the Championship. Obviously, there was the obligatory mention of a former England international in the form of John Terry. Obviously, we've not had the official announcement of who the next manager is. We believe we know who it's going to be. And let me say that if it had been John Terry, I would have immediately been calling for the board to be sacked. Because we are not that, that is absolutely not the kind of person or the kind of profile of manager we want to be going in the direction of. Someone who would be having their first job in management is an actual manager, not as part of a coaching team, but as an actual manager. And obviously, all the things that come with John Terry as a human being. Then we had Paddy McCarthy, I believe was his name. Was a first team coach at Crystal Palace. Again, like Terry, no managerial experience or coaching experience, which I think would have been an interesting proposition had we been a League One club, but we're a championship side. We need championship experience, especially even where we are. At least that's what the board think. So it was down to 3 names. Obviously Neil Harris was floated about, but there's no way it would have come to us, I don't think, especially, and also the kind of the fallout that he had with the fans. I'm not sure it would have gone down well with our support base. So the 3 names that were floated were Mark Robins, obviously sacked from Coventry, very similar instance of fans unrest at his sacking to what we've had with Des. Mark Robins, obviously, last season was a few minutes away from an FA Cup final with Coventry. Season before that, I believe it was a kick away from a playoff final. Mark Robins is a very experienced manager at this level. Obviously, he just spent 7 years at Coventry. They love him to bits, and I think he would have been an interesting manager. Obviously, he would have needed a complete switch up in the system. He plays mainly a back 3, which we're not really built for at this football club. We're mainly built for a 4 at the back with 2 wing backs, obviously. And the next one on the list was Stephen Schumacher. This personally for me was my preferred option. My only concern with Stephen Schumacher is that obviously in total he's got about 18 months of championship experience under his belt. That phenomenal time he had with Plymouth. 2 seasons or a season and a half I should say with them, and then obviously left in the December to go to Stoke. And yeah, that Stoke side, they did on occasion play some really good football, but I would have been a bit concerned what Stephen Schumacher would have been able to get out of this current squad. Don't get me wrong, I really like the idea of Stephen Schumacher, and if it is the case that the man that is rumoured to be coming in is going to be a temporary fix, I'd be absolutely all in for us going to get Stephen Schumacher in the summer, if we're still a championship side. The other one that looks like it's been reported by the same individual, John Percy, I believe it is, of the Telegraph, that reported that Des was about to get sacked. He has reported that Oxford are in advanced conversations with Gary Rowett. And Gary Rowett, obviously a very experienced manager, another one. My slight issue with Gary Rowett is that he's got a mixed record. Obviously, I think it's fair to say we can kind of discount that 8 games of mayhem at Birmingham. They had 4 managers in 1 season. I think it's fair. I think we can, for the most part, take that out of the picture. He did well. I think it was this who also did well to save them from the drop. I think it was. Was it 1920? I think it might have been. Obviously, kind of very mixed record at Stoke. Derby, he did okay. First spell at Birmingham was fine, and then obviously Burton Albion is his most positive spell at a football club, really, in his managerial career. Gary Rowett doesn't really inspire me, so I'm not sure if Gary Rowett fits the profile of manager that this football club is used to. That we want a progressive, forward-thinking, attacking-minded manager. The Oxford way is positive attacking football for the most part. So yeah, I'm uninspired. I'm sceptical about Gary Rowett. But we'll have to wait and see, because like I say, if this is going to be, he comes in till the end of the campaign, fine. Like I say, part of me just, is just thinking, why didn't you stick with Des, you stupid morons? But if Gary Rowett comes in, keeps us in the division, and then the idea is that Rowett will go, and then we can look for a more forward-thinking manager. We bring in a Mark Robbins, we bring in a Stephen Schumacher. Fine. But if the long-term idea is that Gary Rowett is our manager, I have serious questions about the direction that the ownership are trying to take this football club. Because I don't think Gary Rowett, personally, from what I've seen from his time at previous clubs, is a manager for the long term. And I think that, again, from what I've seen from his start of play, from the way his team's set up, I think it would be very quick for fans to turn on Gary Rowett's Oxford United. I think that's for definite. I think we'd be very quick, a lot quicker to turn on Gary Rowett's side than we would have Stephen Schumacher. Because I think with Stephen Schumacher, what we saw, he tried to stoke what he did do at Plymouth, always looking positively. But yeah, it's obviously that's going forward. Looking into the unfortunately what we're calling the past now, the boyhood Oxford fan, the local lad come good that came home. There's a lot of pressure now on the board, because the reality is, like I say, what you've gone and done is you sacked a lad that, you know, there was so much backing of. I hadn't heard a single person in the stands around where I sit saying Des needs to go. There was murmurings, kind of like, oh, we might be in a bit of trouble. But all directions are that we were ready to give him time. We wanted to give him more time because, you know, I know a lot of people say, oh, you know, because of homegrown load, you're always backing more, but it's true. You know, I've said, I think it was on the QPR review, I would have been more than happy to get relegated with Dez Buckingham because I have belief in Dez Buckingham. I believe that Dez Buckingham could, you know, rebuild that side to then go again, to then get back into the Championship and keep us there. I believe in him. Whereas I'm now a little bit confused about the direction of our football club, because especially if they aim to give, if it is Gary Rowett, if they give him the January transfer window, what kind of players we're going to be seeing coming in. I'm expecting a lot of players on short-term contracts. I'm expecting that Kyle Edwards will probably be told to find a new club, which I think is a real shame. Yeah, obviously it's going to be a wait-and-see situation, but a lot of questions are back on Oxford United. So let me know your thoughts on Dez's sacking after just over a year back home, and what's looking like increasingly likely appointment of Gary Rowett as Oxford United manager. I'll see you for Leeds.